Can you hear me?
Yes, that's better. Thank you. All right. I think we lost Dr. Gonsha. Let's try to get her back. I think let me just get Grace on as we try to get Dr. Gonsha back. Grace, please, to the same question, just tell us about yourself, your business, what you do, when you started, where you are now, where your operations are happening for 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll go on to Dr. Gonsha. Grace, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Dr. Naikazi Grace. I'm the Managing Director, Jinko Medical Pharmacies. I'm now having 2 pharmacies and I'm opening a 3rd one, which will be functional by next month. Yeah, how I started. Yeah, first of all, when I started in 2017, it was on Feb. Actually, I still remember the date, 27th Feb. How I started, it was after attending a conference. It was a startup business conference. It was in Murana Hall. It lasted for 7 days. That was a week. Actually, how I started it started by the skills I obtained, because I'm not sure whether that's when I really started, because I started when I'm not sure where the next, okay, I only had 2.5 in my account and I started by looking for a location. So I wasn't sure whether I'll get the money to really start, but I started. That's how I started. Each step was happening as it comes. The only sure man I had was 2.5 in my account, and the other man I was demanding my boss, that was 9 million, which I wasn't sure whether the person will pay me or not. So I started by looking for a location. After the knowledge I got, it's more, what made me start was more of the knowledge and the skills I acquired after attending that startup program. Because they told us, especially me being a pharmacist, was already the capital I had. So we engaged, empowered with this trust in myself, that myself, I was already capital. I started. I had 2.5 in my account. I looked for a location on foot. Some parts I would move with a border. Sometimes I would just enter into a taxi looking through the window to look for a location. I did it on myself, by myself. I landed in a location in Kulambilo. Of course, I was looking according to the rent I can manage. I found a place which was worth a 300 rent. So I paid 900. Those were 3 months. And the money which was remaining, I had to look for a person who could install the furniture. I paid the 1 million and I promised him the next month, because I was already supervising another farmers other than the farmers which had failed to pay me, and I was just demanding for 3 months. Because my former boss I was supervising for him 2 pharmacies, and he had taken 3 months without paying me. And actually, one of the reasons that pushed me to start is because he wasn't paying on time. And when he would pay me 2 bits. So after attending Enterprise Uganda with that force to start with what I had, I moved on and I started. I think in brief, that's how I started.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Grace, for that submission. Clearly, your journey to start is similar to many people who start small and medium businesses. Often we are in a position where we don't have the resources to start, and all we look at is those available resources. And the session which Grace speaks to is what we call the BEST program, where we are getting to say what is available in your hands to be able to start. And sometimes even the circumstances we're in push us to get into business. Like Grace has mentioned, the fact that she hadn't been paid for a while, that caused her to say, you know what, I think I need to get out there, and I begin. Great. So I'll quickly jump to Gonsha. Gonsha, are you back? You could also possibly just respond to the same question, and then we'll get into the detail of the conversation. Gonsha, over to you.
Yes, I'm back.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to use a phone because I don't know what happened to the laptop. It just went off.
No worries.
I'm called Dr. Gonsha Rehema, the pharmacist in charge and managing director of Extra Care Pharmacies in Uganda, and currently the best community pharmacist in Uganda. The question is, how did I start? Mine has been a long journey. I started in 2013, immediately after finishing my internship in Mulago. And there are very many factors that sort of made me confident that when I start a pharmacy, I'm going to handle. The first thing is that I did some bit of practice in other pharmacies before I started mine. I worked in a pharmacy called Joram in Kawempe. I think I started working in it around third year. And from third year to fourth year, and then to internship, those were like 3 years of practice. I got a lot of experience from that pharmacy. And then after Joram, I also worked in another pharmacy called Vine in Tinda. And I served so well, most patients would commend my service. And I think the experience just grew a lot of confidence in me. After that, I also became a medical representative with a certain starting company, importation company, with a certain Muindi. And during this medical representative work, I moved the whole of Uganda and I looked at all pharmacies, I saw gaps, and somehow I got the urgency and the need to start my own pharmacies. How did I start? I started by registering a company. I went to URSB and registered Extra Care Pharmacies. I got the Form 20, Form 18, the certificate of registration, the articles and the memorandum of association, all those documents that show that you are a registered, certified company. I did that first. And then after, I also went to URA and got a TIN number. And then I went straight to National Drug Authority and then went through the processes of registering a new pharmacy. And by then I had identified several locations. The mere fact that I would move to different places trying to advertise drugs, I identified very many locations that had potential, but I zeroed up with Gayaza because I saw there was need. It didn't have many pharmacies, and I think the service, when I could go to those pharmacies, was not up to date. So I decided to start in Gayaza. I rented a house. My rent was $300 per month, and did the furniture, finished up the registration with National Drug Authority. They did the inspections and approved. And then after that, I started operating. So the question is going to be, how did I get capital? When I was an intern in Mulago, I would work internship work in the morning. I would do my internship work during day, and then evening I would go and do cheyo. We used to call it cheyo, and work in another pharmacy. So I would spend all my money. I would spend the money I would get from. I don't know why I'm getting feedback. Okay, so I would spend the money I would get from the pharmacies. And then after that, I would save the money to get from, I would save the money to get from internship. Are we okay?
Rema, before you continue, may I please ask everybody who's not to mute their microphones. Usually that's the cause of feedback. Please mute.
Right. Thank you, Rema. You try again and we see if it's better.
Okay, so I would save all the money I would get from internship, and then I would spend the money I would get from from these pharmacies I was working in. So the accumulated money for a full year gave me some bit of capital. And you know, when you are a pharmacist, it's very easy to start a pharmacy because you are the capital. You have a lot of skills. You are the supervising pharmacist. You don't have to pay the person, the supervising pharmacist, 1.5 every month. That is like saving on your side. So it somehow became very easy for me. And then my mother also added me some bit of money, which I put together, and I put up a standard pharmacy. So that's how I started in 2013. So our current status, I am having 4 pharmacies. I have 2 pharmacies in Gayaza. The first one is at Mirembe stage in Gayaza called Extra Care. I think it's the biggest pharmacy in Gayaza. And then the second one is at Multiple Center next to Opportunity and Centenary Bank in Gayaza. The third one is in Nalukolongo, near the market around there, Nalukolongo Trading Center. And the third one is in Kasangati. I also do very good importation of various assorted items. Some are not drug related. And for now, I think I will stop here. This is what I'm doing so far.
Super, great. Thanks a lot, Grace and Gonsha, for those introductions. Between you clearly have over, I think my estimate, about 12 years of experience in this business. And it's exciting to hear about your journeys and how far they have gone and how you identified the opportunities in those specific spaces. So I'll go back to Grace. And Grace, I just wanted you to share with us, in your opinion, what are the key success factors in this business? What makes someone succeed in the pharmacy business? Both of you have mentioned that you have a background in pharmacy. Is it possible for someone who has no background in this business to enter it? And so what would someone who is interested in starting such a business look at for them to be able to be successful? Grace, you can go first. Grace, I think you're muted.
Okay, for me, the most important key factor was passion. In the beginning, before even joining pharmacy school, I really needed pharmacy service, because I would go in some places and you find people who are handling drugs really don't know them. Like, I had that urge to serve as a pharmacist. So where I used to work, I would go there every other day. So this gave me enough experience. When you have the experience, it can be a factor to push your business forward. Like you've said, that is it possible for people who are not pharmacists to engage into this business? It's very possible. Actually, the biggest percentage of pharmacies in Uganda are owned by non-pharmacists, but maybe they have the passion of the business. So I think what is most important is the passion. Then the experience. As for me, what has kept me going forward is the experience. Then the urge, that passion to keep on pushing for it, because it's really what I wanted. I wanted to serve people in that caliber. And also the key factors is like making sure that my supplier is well, okay. The skill I gained from Enterprise Uganda have really pushed me forward. Why? Like, I know I have to value my supplier. When a supplier is happy, he can give you all the money you need, all the drugs you need, you sell, and and you move on. Still, in addition to the skill I got was making sure that my staff is happy. It's also a factor that has kept me, like most of my client, my staff choose me over my competitors. Another one I can pick out is keeping on learning. You know, still that I got it from Enterprise Uganda, whereby they tell you, you keep learning because business can move on. If you stop understanding what your customer wants, you end up being left outside.
All right.
Key factors.
Thank you, Grace. You raise the question of passion, that you have to be passionate about the business. It means you have to have your heart into it. And then you have also talked about having good relationships with the suppliers. I think we'll go a bit deeper into that in a moment. Having good relationships with your employees as things which have enabled you, and definitely the experience and the skill which is needed in such a unique business. Gonsha, you can go next and just tell us, what are those things, if someone is to succeed in this pharmaceutical business, what things do they need to look out for, and how should they think about the start of their journey? And if there are any questions, please put them in the chat room. Bid will just come and possibly make sure those questions are asked. And then we can be able to proceed. Gonsha, over to you.
Thank you, Ronald. Pharmacy business is a unique business. It's not like any other normal business, because it needs a set of very many skills that are supposed to be applied at the same time. For example, a person who is going to be very successful in this business is supposed to have a very good medical knowledge. And when I talk about medical knowledge, I'm meaning medical experience. You've done ward rounds, you've seen disease conditions, etc. Why? Because worldwide, not only Uganda, however much it's more pronounced in Uganda, pharmacies are the first contact into the healthcare system by various people. For example, if someone falls sick, there is high probability they will first go to the pharmacy before they go to a hospital. So if you are to run this pharmacy successfully, the medical skill is supposed to be so good. And then apart from the medical skill, even the pharmaceutical skill, these two skills are different, the medical skill and pharmaceutical skill. Other skills, you are supposed to have very good computer skills. And when I talk about computer skills, I'm not meaning open and close the computer. The instances when in my pharmacies, a computer just goes off and then you start fidgeting. Somehow the clients are so many, etc. And then one computer stopped working and then it has just gone into sleep mode. So if you don't have those details, over time, I've learned to get acquainted with the performance of computers, with handling minor things that come up abruptly. So the computer skills and then the knowledge of the computer system you have are very key, because it doesn't do so good to use the system and you can't interpret the kind of information the computer is pouring, the system is pouring back to you. The same person who is running this pharmacy is also supposed to have very good accounting knowledge. Over time, I've gone into intensive training to understand accounting knowledge, etc. I went and did business administration at UMI, which had very good accounting as a course unit. It gave me a very like a good start into going deep into accounting interpretation and knowledge. Now, when I had just started this course, they sort of taught us how to interpret financial statements. I went back and started doing my homework on the statements I've been getting from suppliers. And I realized there is an instance when they made me pay 20 million and the goods were not supplied for nothing. So if you do not have this kind of knowledge, there is where some things can just bypass and you lose money here and here, and you just don't know how you're losing money. So that is also a success factor. You are also supposed to have very good regulatory and legal knowledge. You have to know which kind of regulation needs this and this, and how do I satisfy it. And then the legal aspect of it is also knowledge that you are supposed to get well versed with. Organizational skills are also very good skills to have in a pharmacy, because when you start running a pharmacy, you're going to realize it's not a shop. It is not a big business. It's not a small business. You are supposed to have very good organizational knowledge to sort of put things together. Managerial skills, human resource skills, etc. So there are very many skills that you are supposed to have as one person running this particular business. So if you have maybe only the business skill and you don't have very many others, you may end up needing to do a lot of outsourcing from various professionals, and you pay out a lot of money, and in the end, the business is not profitable. For now, I have very many things that I can talk about, but for the sake of time, maybe those are few of the success factors that I can point at now.
All right, thanks a lot. I think Abid, you can take over now and shoot the next couple of questions.
So there have been a few questions that have come in the chat. One was, what's the difference between a drug house and a pharmacy? Grace, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I can take it. A pharmacy is supervised by a pharmacist. A pharmacy cannot exist without a pharmacist. Well, and its variety of drugs is wide. You are not limited. A pharmacy, you are not limited. While as a drug shop, it can be supervised by a nurse, a clinician, and it's limited. We have classes of drugs it cannot have.
Okay.
So it's limited to things like vitamin C, some few herbal syrups, Panadol, while as a pharmacy can have all antibiotics, even narcotic drugs, which are highly dependent. Yeah, I think that's the little. Okay, in a layman's language, I can say a pharmacy is bigger than a drug shop.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. Gonsha, there's a question directly for you. How did you end up venturing into importing assorted items? Where did you get the courage? I think Abdallah may have tried that. It did not go well. So, Ayagakumanya.
Okay, I forgot to say I come from a family where my mother was a businesswoman and my father was a businessman. So in the process of growing up, these two parents gave us a lot of skills and a lot of exposure, more especially my mother. I don't know why my mother just had a lot of confidence in me particularly. I think these parents see a lot in their children, and they try to grow up those aspects of their children without us, the children, knowing. For example, when I was around S3, a holiday, this woman would travel with me to Nairobi. And then she would go with me shopping in Nairobi, going to ECD, showing me how you gather items together after shopping, etc., and then how you transport them back to your business premise. So that was very good exposure. And then number two, I grew up in Busia. Just look at the Busia environment. Not now, but the Busia of long ago was typically a business incubation center. So we got a lot of experience. We would go to the clearing point and we would see how they would clear items, etc. And then in holidays, there is a way we would go to those clearing points and help people to fill in documents, travel documents, the people who can't read and etc. What is your name? And it's me writing for them, etc. It was very good exposure that makes me far competitive compared to a normal person who has been through pharmacy school and etc. So when I was growing up, this mother just gave me a lot of exposure. There is a time I was telling a friend that in my Essex vacation, my mother left the shop for me. And I think she would go and do other travel businesses, and she left the shop for me with some stock and said, feed the family. Essex vacation. So you can imagine how I struggled. I would have to restock. I would have, the family has to eat the lunch. And I will tell you, this woman just made me a strong person. So to do with importation, it's more of background knowledge, etc. I totally know a lot of information. And then on top of that, there is a lot of training that happens everywhere. I don't know why these people do not go for these trainings. I'll give you an example. There is a course I did with Enterprise Uganda. It's called entry tech course, something like that. The enterprise people are going. Yes.
Yes.
Pressure put on me. Of course, I come out best, almost best in everything. But the kind of information and organization they model you into just gives you a lot of resilience and exposure. And then different webinars come up. If you keep attending, you will know how these things move. But importation is a very possible business.
All right. Thank you, Rehema. Grace, how you said you started by yourself with just $1 million picking up. You just had money for 1 month. How did you build up your team? How many people do you have currently? And how do you build up your team? And how do you handle stuff?
At first, I was everything. I was a dispenser. I was a procurement officer. I was the cleaner. I was totally everything. But there was one day I would go to the other farmers, which I would supervise. So I would call in my colleagues, some other farmers, sometimes were my friends. I call them, come and cover me. I'll give you maybe 20,000 a day. They would come cover me when I'm not around. When I come back, they leave. So it's like, at one point I used the friendship to sort me up. It was after like 5 months, I employed my first employer. She would work 3 days a week. But all the rest I was doing them myself. As resources availed themselves, I started employing a cleaner. From there, I employed the first nurse who would work 3 days a week. But now, now I have a cashier. I have 2 dispensers. I employ a pharmacist. The other pharmacy also, I have two nurses, a cashier. I have a cashier and I have a cleaner. Actually, I forgot to tell you that I also currently I have a medical center. Which medical center? I have a dentist. I have a surgeon, I get him on call. I have a clinical officer. I have a medical officer. I have 2 nurses. I have a midwife. So I have to first count to tell you how many people I employ.
You don't have a system for managing your staff members, HR?
Currently, I'm the HR.
Okay.
Actually, when I'm recruiting, I meet a person personally, me and her ask questions. If you know some things, I train you for 1 month. If you fail, it means you can't help me.
Rehema, there's a question for you. When your mother added some money to your business, did you treat that as a grant or as a debt or as an investment into the business?
I don't know whether I have to classify it as a grant or what, but the time my mother gave me this money, I knew the venture she was going into at one time may hit a rock. So I actually convinced her to bring the money so that we start up something that can be a cushion to even her when she fails in the ventures she was doing by then. So she gave me the 7 million, thankfully. And then by then she would take some items to Sudan and they were making a lot of money. And somehow a war started up in Sudan. Can you imagine? And my mom sort of lost a lot of capital and she didn't have anything to do. And somehow I had to convince her, you see, mommy, you have very good business skills, etc. And me, I have very good medical skills. So what we are going to do, I request you to come and sit in one of the pharmacies and help me with the operations, only operations. And I'll keep giving you the salary so that you sort of get settled and get out of the businesses that need a lot of traveling, etc. You know, you're growing, you will develop chronic illnesses, etc. I had to sit and convince her to sit down and work with us. So she bought the idea and went to the Narukolongo branch where she does the operations for me. So I don't have to sort of be on pressure. Did they sweep the other branch in Narukolongo? Did they open? Did they do what? etc. My mother does that for me. And in the end, she ended up becoming an employee in the company. So one of the employees in Extra Care Pharmacy is my mother. She does some bit of the operational management for one of the businesses. So in terms of, was the money a grant or etc.? I'm thinking the money was a capital, which became also like a cushion for her. She earns like close to 2 million per month. So by now, all her money is back. So was it a grant? I don't know.
Grace, there's a question here. How do you deal with drug pricing? Is this set by NDA or market forces? How do you deal with this?
It is not set by NDA, but I can say it's more set off by your competitors. Will you be so high when your competitors are selling low? That's part of benchmarking. Though, anyway, when you are starting any business, consultation is key. I moved it to my elders in business. They told me how they were pricing. But it's a bit, how can I say, it's almost countrywide. Almost everybody uses 1.5 times cost price. And you try to see if your people around you are selling at a certain price, it will open your mind that either you are high or you are buying from a wrong place. That is simply how I can answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rehema, how do you deal with?
How did I?
How do you deal with pricing?
Oh, pricing is another story in pharmaceutical business. You see, pharmacy has different range of drugs, the painkillers, the antihypertensives, etc. Very many range of drugs. And particularly my pharmacy has over 3,000 items. And all these items have to be priced. And some items, the prices never change. I'll give you an example. From the time you were a child to now, there is high probability you're still buying a strip of Panadol at 500. So some prices are very static. There is high probability you're still buying a pair of Action at 300. There are some items that the prices remain constant for over a period of time. And if you do a little deviation from the norm, the client will easily tell. The client will easily tell. But for other items, there is a certain kind of logic that sort of informs you that on these items, let me lose, on these, let me make profit, and etc. So the price percentages may differ according to classes of drugs, according to need and demand.
Okay.
That's what I will have to submit on this on this question of pricing.
Okay. Grace, how do you manage your suppliers? I believe suppliers are a key success factor for any business, especially drugs. How do you manage them that you have constant supply and they're giving good things? Grace, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, one of my key factors is being honest. When I've borrowed the stock and I tell them I'm bringing the money maybe after 1 week, I make sure I call them first if I failed to what? If I failed to get the money, or if I get the money earlier, I'm even happier I pay in time. So at least I have over 5 suppliers who trust me that they can give me any credit in case I needed it. Then one of the reasons that make me choose a supplier over another one is inconsistency. There are some suppliers, when you buy this times an item at 500, maybe because you've just started buying from them, the next time they will add a 50. They sell you at 550. When you complain, they say, hey, it was you. It's you who sent. Let us reduce. Those are inconsistent because sometimes, yes, I'm the one who chooses who will supply me, but sometimes I'm not around at the farmers when they are making an order. So sometimes when they find a different voice, they want to add some little money, which is inconveniencing to me. Yeah, then I select so that I don't confuse. For example, when I get a leakage, for example, if it's gabogola syrup, I get a leakage, I have there is a time when I had over 3 suppliers at the same time. I would write, for example, if I bought from Royal Farmers, I would write R on the item so that in case it has a problem, I'll complain to Royal, yet I bought at the same day from 2 different pharmacies. Sometimes we need to be specific why. There are some drugs which are very cheap in a certain pharmacy, and there are some which are, there are some pharmacies whereby if you don't buy from that, okay, there are pharmacies which bring in a certain product. So when you go to that supplier, that product will be cheaper. Actually, before I continue, you should know that I'm with my senior. Gonsha is my senior. Actually, she trained me in my internship. So though I'm talking on the same platform with her, I'm learning.
Yeah. Yes, that's always interesting.
Yeah.
Rehema, are all your
Yes.
4 pharmacies retail or wholesale pharmacies?
Currently, I'm doing retail, but I've told you I'm also doing some bit of importation, so I'm going into wholesale. But the kind of wholesale that I'm going to venture into is called distribution. It's not like you open a shop and then wholesalers come in. It is a kind of wholesale where you bring key classified drugs, and the people who consult you for the key classified drugs are actually the specialists, and then specialized institutions. For example, when I bring the knee replacement equipment, you are not going to find a drug shop coming to to restock from me knee replacement metals and etc. It will be orthopedic surgeons calling me Gonsha or Linakano from which country, etc. So it is the kind of wholesale that I'm venturing into. It is basically very classified.
We have a question from Samiamba John Bosco. Maybe Grace, you can take this one. It says, I've noticed that both are panelists operate around Kampala, yet one of them has even a medical representative who explored other parts of the country. Why did you decide to choose Kampala in particular?
Okay, as for me, by then I was staying in Bukoto. I was waiting for unemployment from Eco Farm. That's when I heard of the conference of Enterprise Uganda. And with Enterprise Uganda, they were emphasizing us, tandikira woli, start from where you are. There is no way I would travel to far places. I had already left Uganda because I'm born. Okay, I'd already left Jinja because I grew up in Jinja. I started from Jinja, but currently I was being employed at Bueno pharmacies. One was in Chaliwajala, one was in Mukono. So when I was having that problem of not being in comfortable understanding with my employer, I had moved to look for a job in Eco Farm. So as I was waiting for being employed, I heard of that thing of Enterprise Uganda. After attending, I moved around Kampala because that is, but some people have an assumption that outside Kampala business is not there. It can work because some people consult me how you have managed and they take me to pharmacies which are far, but they are performing well.
Rema, maybe the next one could go to you. Why is it still necessary for vet drug shops to employ human drug pharmacists to supervise them? Wait, Emmanuel, this is from Emmanuel. I don't know, do you want them to employ animal?
Okay, so I think Emmanuel is a vet surgeon. There is always that pulling ropes between vet surgeons. Remember, surgeons, did you hear me well? Vet surgeons and the drug specialists who are pharmacists. There is always that pulling of rope. I don't want to go into the political aspect, but let me go into the medical aspect. You see, when we are studying this pharmacy course, it is a very wide course that has different aspects that are it manages. The clinical aspect, human clinical medicine, regulatory aspects, the manufacture aspects, etc. And what this surgeon or person is asking, the person who is asking should know that pharmacists are actually drug specialists. We are chemists. We understand the chemistry so well. We understand how these carbon atoms are combining with the hydrogen, etc., etc. So the science of the drug is actually embedded by the pharmacists. So as long as it's a pharmacy, whether it's a veterinary pharmacy or a human pharmacy, and it is having drug molecules and chemicals, they will always need a custodian. The roles we play do not only protect the animals, but they also protect the human beings. So if somebody asked me, why should a pharmacist be supervising a veterinary pharmacy, etc., it's because there are drug molecules that are supposed to be taken care of. So if this pharmacist has decided to specialize in veterinary medicine and has decided to go deep and sort of grow their knowledge in that direction, that person has all the credibility of supervising a veterinary pharmacy. I think that is my submission to do with that question.
Okay. So this will go to both of you. We start with Grace, then come back to Rehema. What, this is from Berhanga Peter. What is the secret behind your business growth?
Consistency, being honest, treating your work as well. Then your goals you set. Do you want to remain with one pharmacy? Do you want to grow? If you want to grow, try to, how can I say, read about what can make you grow. Admire, okay. Sometimes admiring is a force behind.
Okay.
Sacrifice, and mainly having goals. Am I saving some money for the next pharmacy? Or I'm eating all of it?
Okay. That is interesting. I keep hearing that a lot. Consistency, honesty, and treating your customer as well from people also in all other businesses who have grown. Rehema, over to you. Secret behind your business growth.
This is a good one, but secret behind my business, by the way, Extra Care Pharmacy is one of the fastest growing pharmacy in this country. And these are some of my secrets. One of them is that I have very good medical knowledge, very good. Actually, when I finished, when I was an intern pharmacist, I was the intern pharmacist president. When I entered into Mulago, I realized that there was a gap between what the theory and then the practice. There is where we were failing to match up well. And as a president, I came up with a training program, which I called the interns training program. I was like 2 to 3 years ahead of Grace, my co-presenter, and Grace will attest to it. When I started this training program, I started bringing up mentors into the program to sort of help us and help us implement the theory we have in our wards and different practice centers. When I started this program, it became so successful to an extent that Makerere University got involved. Our top professor, Professor Odoi, started coming to attend our classes. And Professor kept on telling me, Gonsha, you are just too good at this. And before I knew it, different universities all over the world started sending us specialists. And that's how I came to get in touch with kidney pharmacy specialists, diabetic, what I got a lot of knowledge. And then before I knew it, I wrote a concept paper and invited the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda to come and get involved into the program. So the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda came in and the program grew, and they rolled the training from Mulago Hospital, where I was heading the interns, to different hospitals all over the world, all over the country. And somehow they would post me to different hospitals. And my medical knowledge grew so much. And before I would come out of the internship, somehow I was leaving the program behind. The society asked me to go back and grow the program. So I went back and worked with the interns like for 3 more years after my internship had ended. And that's how I got in touch with a certain professor who secured me a training position in the US. And that's how I went and did pharmaceutical care in America. So this kind of training, very few people have done it, and the kind of knowledge. I may be one of the few people who can provide good pharmaceutical care. So that is one of the secret behind the success of my company. Another secret is that I keep training. I never get satisfied that I know a lot. I attend trainings like this one. I attend trainings with anybody that puts up training that I think is relevant to my business. So I make sure I keep attending and attending. I become very innovative and I'm so critical to the needs of my clients. I'll give an example. There is a time I would go to the market in our locality in Gayaza, and there is a particular man who was lame and blind at the same time, selling banana leaves. So I would, one day I went up and started chatting him up and asked him, Gwesebo, whenever I come and give you money here to buy banana leaves, Otegero Tianti, how do you know that I've given you the correct amount of money? The man says, whoever pays me decides how much they pay me. That was question number 1. Question number 2, how did you lose this leg? And then the man says, you see, I had diabetes and they amputated me. I was like, okay. Question number 3, how did you lose your sight? You see, they say diabetes made me lose my sight. So I'm like, okay, no problem. This is my phone number. You call me, we find a solution. So the man called me and I had to sit down and look for a solution for this man. And I kept on researching around until when I came across a camp, an operation camp. I wrote a letter and asked for a position for this man. So we took the man. Remember, I'm doing all this free of charge. We took the man to the camp. They operated his eyes and the man saw again. The man was so happy and he became an advert for our pharmacies in Gaza. He kept on saying I had lost sight, and the reason why I really had to make sure this man sees again is because the man was diabetic and was on insulin. Kati, if you're blind and you're on insulin, how do you measure the dose you take? The man told me he was depending on one of his daughters to measure for him the dosage for the insulin. And this was a small girl who was measuring the insulin for the man. And my concern was that the day that girl will measure a wrong dosage, that will be the end of that man's life. So I had to look for ways of helping the man, and the man saw again. So these interventions that I keep doing in the pharmacy are the same interventions that have made me get several awards as the best community pharmacist in Uganda in the different years. So I think these 2 things are one of my reasons why I'm succeeding a lot.
Okay. Wow, that's actually quite interesting to hear. But it's interesting for a lot of successful businesses. There's always that element of having a human care for your clients, a human heart for your clients, not just about making money. Because actually clients actually do feel when you actually care about them, not just being interested in money. I'm going to merge 2 questions about how did you find growth? Is it having more branches countrywide, or can you have a branch and make it grow? Like one branch and make it bigger and become bigger and become bigger? And then also related to that is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What is your vision for next 5 years? I will start with Grace, then come to you, Rehema.
Can you repeat for me the question?
How did you find success and growth in your business? Is it about having more branches, or is it about having more services, or is it having those same branches that you have and expanding the services that you're offering there? And also, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Growth is not measured by the number of pharmacies. For example, if I show you of a photo of Jinko Pharmacy in 2017 when I had started, was having 3, 2, 1, like one packet of Panadol is here, another one is here. So one pharmacy can show growth, provided you make sure you are satisfying your clients.
Okay.
If maybe you needed, for example, at first I had 1 employee, now I have 4. That's already a sign of growth. Then there is a time you feel you can't add on anything. Maybe even the landlord is not allowing you to break and make a bigger one. So you go to another place. If you find that there is need for that service, there you are growing that way. But if you have to concentrate on one place, you make sure you finished all where you can. And when all the expansion, how can I say it? You can see that you don't have any growth space, so you move on. There is moving on when even the first one is still demanding, you don't have enough stock. That's not growth. Then The next question is where I see myself in the next 5 years. Me, I think after 5 years from now, I will just concentrate on the pharmacies I have. I don't want to add on. By then I'll have 5 pharmacies. Because already I have 3 and a medical center. I'm going to concentrate on them. After 5 years, according to my goals, as per now, I don't want to add on more.
All right.
Is there another question I've not answered?
No, that is it. That is it.
Okay.
Rehema?
Growth is defined by many factors. Branches, yes, because if someone is making many branches, there is high probability they're actually making profit. However much some people make branches out of borrowed money, we should also put that in aspect. But I would think, yes, formation of new branches is also an indicator of growth. Another inventory, just like Grace is telling you that time she started, she was having few syrups, you could count them, etc. And now you may find she has a bigger variety and range of syrups and in big numbers. So if you have more items increasing and then more items in terms of stock, then I think that is also a sign of growth. And then if your number of customers is growing, to me, I think it is a sign of growth. If last year I was having 400 clients and this year I'm having 700 clients, that is also a sign that would help me understand that my businesses are growing. The interventions I make, I think, are also a sign of growth. They keep showing me, hey, medical practice, I'm growing into implementation, I'm growing etc. Into my implementation of medical knowledge etc. It's always a sign to me that I'm growing. And when my numbers of employees increase, it gives me a good picture that I'm growing. And then when I'm having impact on people, I'll give an example. There is a time I got a younger boy to work as a cleaner in one of the pharmacies. This boy had done his S6 and he got a D1 in math from those villages. The guy had a D1 in math, S6. I personally did PCB math, and I think getting a D1 in math is good indicator that you are a super A student. And the boy is an orphan. He has good grades, but has no one to take him up. So when they told him about a job here, I think somebody told him that you go and work as a mobile money agent in this pharmacy. I have agency banking as part of the businesses in the pharmacies. And the boy comes, and when he comes, he was like, I was like, no, I think for your qualification, you will not do this. I think you become a cleaner. The boy started crying. And somehow I had to go in. Now, what are you going to do? You start here. You have to start here. The guy would clean the pharmacy so well and after sit aside and start crying. Typically younger man. And I still insisted, me, I think I want to give you a future. Sit down and clean the pharmacy. He would clean so well, do a super job, and then after he would go crying. So after 1 month, the boy stopped crying. And then with the time, I think he has a maternal uncle who is not so bad love, but the maternal uncle had forgotten all about him, etc. And then the boy had become a cleaner in a certain pharmacy. I think the uncle became a bit sympathetic and called the boy to go back to school. And he got a place for him in a certain institute in Mbale. And he was ready to just contribute part of the fees. And then the boy came to me and said, now, doctor, now I really want to start there. And I think I really want to become a mechanical engineer. But uncle says he can give me a half of this. And it is, so I had to sit the boy down and say, you see, in this world is just for being mature. What you should do, go and get your friend who has failed to get a job in your village and bring him here, stay in the same house. When you go to study for the 3 months, you leave this one working. When you come back, it's you working, so that you share a job with this person. When you come back, you work for that holiday, get some money, and then when you go back to study, this person covers you. The boy accepted and brought, I think, somebody who is a half brother, and then it actually worked out well. So the boy would come and work in the holidays and earn money. And then after the holidays, he would go and study and leave this one keeping the job. And that's how the boy has managed to study for the 3 years. And he's doing his final semester to become a mechanical engineer. So when I see such impact and growth, even in my employees, I become satisfied that now the company is growing and it's getting royalists. Yeah, that's my contribution.
Okay. We are running out of time, so we shall take 3 quick questions from the chat. The first one is, how did you maneuver through COVID? How did it impact your business? And then did you make a loss? Did you make a profit? How did you go through COVID? So for both of you, if you can just keep it short. I'll start with you, Rehema, and then we go to Grace.
I didn't make losses in COVID. I actually started a new branch in COVID. And I will tell you, it's one of our top performing branches. In COVID, being medical, I kept on hearing there is a pandemic coming. I forgot to tell people that I'm a board member in Kasita, Uganda, the top business organization in this country. So in this board, Kasita, Uganda, we had a chairman, may his soul rest in peace. He was called Everest Kayondo. He was a very exposed man who knew almost everything about every country, about every subject in the world. And Kayondo kept on telling us, the COVID, bugenda kujja wano, Gonsha, COVID is coming, get prepared. So I somehow got prepared. I started stocking stuff aside. So I knew very well kati COVID wabanga China etandise okuggalawo gundi ajja kuggalawo naffe bajja tuggala. Ate we batuggala, we shall not get stock. So I had my good backup stock. So when COVID came, some items started going off market. For example, pills. Can you imagine pills went off market? And people are redundant at home and they have no pills. Me, I had my pills well stocked. So people were moving from every suburb and finding pills at my pharmacy, and me, I was busy continuing to survive. And then one of the things that made it so easy for me to survive when COVID started and they locked us down, I got a phone call from one of our leaders and said, Gonsha, jango chime sticker. Minister of Health called me for a car sticker. And I think that was a very good blessing. Little did I know, I think these people know how I do my things and how I perform. They somehow thought I needed to be supported. So I went and picked my sticker for the car. And after just the lockdown, every hard case was coming to me. And after like 1 week and a half, I still got a phone call from the ministry and said, and this person was asking me, I think it was the minister who was asking me, we're Gonsha, tell me, how is it now? I'm like, now I'm seeing every kind of complicated case. And this person told me, that's the reason we gave you a sticker. We knew you would step in so quickly to save people's lives, and we needed to support you as quick as possible. So somehow, it made it so easy for me to continue running because I could travel here, and here. I could come up even in the night to support anyone who totally needed my help at that given time. To do with the workers, I just made shifts. You see, the shift, the working hours had decreased. We would work up to midnight in the night, but now they had decreased the hours to 7. With us, we would continue working, but the people would totally get finished by 7. So I just made a 6 hours shift where one person would work for 6 hours and go. 6 hours and go. So I maintained the staff. I paid all the salary within all that COVID, and we actually made money. That's what I have to say.
Grace, how did you maneuver through COVID?
As for me, COVID was a bit challenging. You know, with this business thing, which makes us sometimes run crazy. For me, it wasn't a necessity. So COVID came, I had a branch in Bwaise and a branch in Kulambiro. So I would sleep in the one of Kulambiro because that was my first pharmacy. Now traveling to go and check on the one in Bwaise was a challenge. That's when I was like, I wish I bought a car. I wish I bought a car. So COVID pushed me on the woods. Now I'm happy I have a Subaru. But when we talk of working, okay, actually in the other pharmacy, I made losses because it was hard to supervise it. It wasn't increasing at all, even yet this way we are really, because the clientele was, people were stocking drugs really. Even me, at least I had some indications that at least I had cartons of vitamin C and the flu drugs and cough drugs. There was Covidex, which really moved, it had legs. We made money, but in my other pharmacy didn't make a good, it was a challenge because I could not move, though I had the right to a sticker, but I had no number plate to attach it to. But now I have a car, so I can't blame COVID a lot.
Okay, I see Godfrey has his hand up. Godfrey, you can unmute.
Yes, am I through?
Yes, you're through.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abid, for the opportunity. And thanks presenters Gonsha and Grace. Maybe just 2 quick questions. One, what would be your pharmacists or doctors or doctor pharmacists? Then the second question maybe goes to Gonsha. Pharmaceutical care is all about. Hope I'm clear.
Are the questions clear? Grace and Rehema?
Yes.
Okay. I think this will be our last questions, and then there is a request for your contacts in chat. And before you answer the last questions, people are asking what are the trainings that you have been talking about. I'll talk about the 2 most common ones at Private Enterprise Uganda. There's a BEST program. This is the one that is for starters. Like when you're just beginning, BEST is very good for you. This one is held countrywide at different times. And then there's an interprotocol enterprise training workshop. This one is usually 1 week. Very intense and very competitive to also get into. You can just reach out to us at the Enterprise Uganda and register for any of these, and then we shall let you know when they're available. Over to you, Grace, for the questions for Godfrey.
Okay, I remember he asked what is a pharmacy doctor or doctor pharmacy. Like the way you see dentists are called doctors, so also pharmacists have the title of doctors. It's known why you got nationwide. We are doctors in pharmacy. Then also he said, I think for pharmacy care, I will leave it to Dr. Gonsha to answer that one.
Yes, Rehema, please go ahead.
Oh,
You're muted, Rehema.
They keep asking, Kati give a doctor. Let me ask you, Mulo was at a twasoma. Yeah, anyway. The way our course is designed is that you do 4 years in school and 1 year of internship. And basically, the Ugandan pharmacy degree is very clinically biased. We study very many other things, but the clinical aspect is given very good attention. So when we start first year, we sit in the same class with doctors. We attend the same lectures. We do the same courses. We are given the same cadavers. We do the same training in anatomy. So we started with doctors like for the first 3 years, and we get the best medical education. The information the doctor has, even me, the pharmacist, I have. But starting from around 3rd year, they add more courses to us, and the doctors are having the few courses. So the doctors go more into drug disease diagnosis. They go into training more about the disease. And the pharmacist goes more into training about the drug. So in a very good setting, you need these two people to put heads together to manage a patient. And that's how these two courses are very complementary. And to be called doctors, it's very appropriate. It happens worldwide. When I was the company pharmacist for Beta Healthcare, Beta Healthcare is the company that manufactures Action, Headaches, etc. When I was the company pharmacist, I could get chances to go to Kenya, to their manufacturing plant in Kenya. And all pharmacists in the company, even the company pharmacist, was called a doctor. Here in Uganda, because the pharmacy course is just evolving and growing, they took long to gazette the title. And the title was gazetted like 3 years back. That's why people are still getting confused. Katina pharmacist, Dr. Vichy, we have the same knowledge and we are very competent. That is my my contribution about the doctor title. And then about the pharmaceutical care, this is like an advancement, like or specializing or Lifuka consultant. The person who has done very good pharmaceutical care looks at a patient holistically. I'll give you an example. If you come to my pharmacy and you say you have a doctor, I mean you have headache, there is high probability that I will not just give you the painkiller. I may go ahead to do clerking. The clerking is like a medical process of pulling information out of you, and then I make a judgment out of it. So that information you give me gives me very good basis to make a diagnosis for you, and the diagnosis and how I handle things holistically. And then I go ahead, is it a migraine? Is it pressure? Is it what? Like, I don't just solve the symptoms and etc. I go ahead to work you up, clock you, and then I get a definite course of action that will prolong your life. That's what they call pharmaceutical care. It's more of looking at a patient as a holistic, in a holistic way. I'll give an example that will help you understand on how pharmaceutical care is important. During lockdown, I got, this is just one of the many cases that I handled. I keep documenting the very, like the hard cases that I've handled, and from medical knowledge, Naikati, I keep documenting those aspects of my clinical practice. So this patient came to our pharmacy with results that he had done from a nearby clinic. He had gone for a blood sugar test. Naja nga, the test was at 34. You know, blood sugar level is supposed to be around 6, yeah? 5 to 6. Now this patient is scoring 34. That means that this one is real sick. Now, because it's COVID, people actually don't have money. They are so poor. He went to the clinic and they told him, "Oh, we are supposed to admit you." But the person cannot afford to even buy insulin. The right thing to do now by then was to admit him and put him on insulin, but the patient could not afford. So he went to another clinic, and was chased away. So the same patient went to the government facility, health center and he reached there was no insulin. And like, never to know what that was insulin. And then the patient came to Extra Care Pharmacy. When he came, I sat the patient down and like, to demo on you, and the patient told me stories. And there is something he hit that opened my eyes. I'm like, I have a way I will help you. So he had remained with 5,000 shillings. When we talked, I found a way of combining very cheap drugs for him, and which I will not mention for medical reasons. And I combined them and said, "Katikole plan." That pharmaceutical care plan is a big specialty. So netutandikokola plan. You're going to be taking at this time. On this day, we are going to do this, etc. You have to call me at this time. We did a plan. And the patient went home and started swallowing. This patient is actually is a driver. And he stopped driving because the body could not afford the energy, etc. I have the pictures of the patient, and he was basically a skeleton by the time he met me. So I put him on medication and he started swallowing. And after 3 days, nada, ntandi sochuka. And he goes and gets the test. The sukari is now going down. The sugar is starting to drop, which in normal medical practice and training, it would not have dropped without this admission. It is, but now during crisis, you need real specialized knowledge. So to cut the story short, after like a week, the guy went back to normal. After 2 weeks, he resumed his job. And he started earning again in COVID. He started earning again. And to date, this guy is like a key advert. Even now, the patient evidently shows, without me telling him, without telling him, he also knows and judges from the way he was feeling and the crisis he was in. And now he keeps telling people, pharmacy, the pharmacy is Extra Care Pharmacy. So that is what I have to talk about pharmaceutical care.
Okay. Thank you very much. There's been a request for your contacts. Is this something you want to share? Grace,
I have no problem. I have no problem being a medical person. My contact is supposed to be public. If you go to our websites, Extra Care Pharmacy, the website, the Facebook page, etc., you will get the contact. But I'll give it to you. My contact is 0775 15 28 51.
Then Grace.
Okay, for me it is the one which is on WhatsApp, and you can call in is my MTN number. It is 0773 46 9922. And in case you want someone to help you in looking for location in pharmacy, for a pharmacy location, you can contact me. In case you want somebody to train your staff in a pharmacy, you can contact me.
I think somebody had requested on how to start a business. I think they'll get in touch with you. Thank you very much, Dr. Gonsha Rehema and Grace. Are you also a doctor?
Yeah.
Dr. Grace, thank you very much for sharing today. It has been very informative for everybody. Our time ran out 20 minutes ago, but we continued so that we can go on. Thank you very much. We have these sessions every Thursday. Please tune in next Thursday. We shall send out the posters and the details. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Have a nice weekend.